All right, all right. This is going to be an interesting one, no question about that. As you could probably read in the description, I was listening to a podcast today, and I was blown away what Apple's doing. And if many of you know, usually what Apple does, most corporations follow suit. Let's chat about that. All right. This is going to be an interesting one. I was actually quite compelled to chat about this discussion because the topic of remote work and going back to work. So it's interesting. And full disclosure, my job has always been remote work because I'm an outside sales representative. So I just wanted to share that with you. I don't really have a dog in a game or a hot dog, or you guys correct me. Well, want to let you guys know all opinions are solely my own and do not reflect the opinions of my employer, mainly because I work for the second largest recycling and waste company in the nation. And if we haven't met already, shame on me. Hey, how are you? My name is Marcello Arcele. I provide recycling and waste services for manufacturing, industrial, and logistical companies right here in Metro Atlanta. My goal is to make sure that the solution that's in place is a safe one and is reliable. At the end of the day, my goal is to make sure I can reduce their downtime. If that sounds like you, or you know someone that needs my help, please contact me directly. My number is 678-683-9136. So thank you very much for joining me. So I see I have my old school folks in the house, my steady 80. I see Carolyn in the building. What's going on, Carolyn? I haven't seen you in a minute. Thank you very much for stopping in. And I see also I got my good friend Maria. Thank you very much for coming through. Now, I got a new hashtag I'm going to be using. If you're live, I see already Carolyn used it. It's hashtag CCLive. That's for cocktails with cello. CCLive. If you're watching a replay, it's CCReplay. Letter C, and replay. I got my dude in the building. Robert, thank you very much. Gracias por venir a ver la programación en vivo. Thank you very much for coming through. All right, so here we go. Now, as I mentioned in the description, I'm going to be sharing a snippet of the podcast from the Tech Jawn. I listen to these guys on a regular basis. There's a relatively new podcast compared to like a lot of other podcasts that's been around, but I love their perspective because essentially what they do is they're just real. They're just three folks that get there and just really share their perspective without any concerns about who's listening, which is fantastic. How often you are dealing with someone that is comfortable in their own skin. So that's fantastic. So I definitely want to go into that right now. So let me bring up their page and you'll see what I'm talking about. So again, the link to their podcast is in the description and I put that in the comments. So please be sure to support them. Okay, let's get this going right here. Listen to them.
So normally, when we start talking about these various, subjects and stuff like that, I'm, I try to play it right down the middle as much as I can. But this one, this Apple story, I'm with the employees, Apple employees. They got a taste of that remote life and they really ain't trying to go back to it. I believe it is September.
And I'm curious, how many of you guys watching me either live or replay are remote work? And I'm curious, how many of you guys that are remote work are ready to go back? Let me know. If you are remote work, put hashtag remote work. If you're ready to go back, put in hashtag RTW, which is ready to work or return to work. RTW. So I'm curious to know about that. Let me know. Let's get back to the show.
November 5th on Labor Day. Apple has plans that you got to come back in the office. It's a hybrid plan, but they got to come back in 3 days a week. And there's a bunch of employees who still aren't feeling that. So I'm with them on this one. I wouldn't want to go back either. But
go ahead, Terrance.
No, I was going to say, as much as, let me figure out the best way to say it. As much as I am pro remote work, these employees had to know that this day was coming. And as a result, they either should have been preparing ahead of time, or maybe they just assumed that Apple was just going to say indefinitely remote.
Now, what are you guys' thoughts on this? Did you guys, when you heard about this remote work, it's a lot of companies they had to apply because either you're going to just lose the workforce, because they just couldn't come to work. So they had to make accommodations. So given that said, I'm curious to know how many of you guys actually was thinking, you know what, this thing is going to, eventually they're going to just have folks come back, or better yet, this is what I've heard a lot of folks thought about. Depending on the industry, I'm sure there's some truth to this eventually, that they will automate a lot of these tasks. Either they'll find ways to, we don't need Jackie anymore because we could have Billy across the country that could take the same calls because, it's remote work, right? Or we don't need Bobby because they could have a robot to do the same work. So just curious to know what you guys think about that. Let's go back to and just share it in the comments if you what you guys think about that.
Work or whatever the case may be, but they had to know this day was coming. So it's like a petition. Y'all just now doing a petition. Y'all should have had this stuff geared away going from the word go, because y'all know Apple with that brand spanking new spaceship satellite thing over there that they was going to let that thing collect dust. They was going to bring y'all back in there. So it's like y'all should have been planning early to get this going ahead of time, so y'all could at least come with better ammunition than just a petition.
And at the end of the day, your job is to be at the job. Like, if that's what your job requires, like, the pandemic was extenuating circumstances. We had to stay home to stay safe and all of that. However, your job actually does require you. I mean, clearly it allows for some flexibility because you've been able to continue to do your job over all this time at home, but you still report to somebody. So if the somebody that's signing your paycheck wants you to come back in, I mean, I don't know. I'm of two minds about this. I mean, I'm always trying to be pro employee, but you still got to answer to somebody. And to your point, Terrance, they're not going to let Apple One or whatever that is called, that spaceship is called, go to waste. And at some point, they had, like you said, they had to know that things were going to get as closely back to normal as possible.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just talking about earlier, that a lot of folks would have had to think or believe that things was going to go back to how things were before. To a certain extent, certain companies have to go back. For instance, like right now, Maria was saying that employees walked out of some retail establishments. Mind you, think about that. Even Apples are dealing with employees unionizing. So you got that also that they're dealing with as well. And I say dealing with, have to incorporate into their way of doing things. And that's a better way of putting it. I see Ryan is in the building. Thank you very much for coming through, Mr. Fox. Yeah, he works from home and he misses people. Hey, you could come see me whenever you come to Atlanta. Come on. I got an extra bedroom. You can hang out. Or you could work remote from Atlanta. Just teasing. So yeah, no, Amazon. So here we go. Maria says that Amazon prepping for the holidays. That's going to be interesting. Yeah, I agree with that, Maria. They're going to have to definitely prep. They have to bring the folks back in Mind you, I know firsthand Amazon is one of my greatest customers. So I understand how they operate, and they need the human aspect in the businesses. I can't even talk in the facilities, but some of their locations are has a lot of automation involved as well. So it minimizes the individual or human interaction. So curious to know about that. Now, my dude over here on YouTube is saying, take a look at this here. He's saying that tech companies rely on collaborations among workers in design processes and often better work in person. That's one of the things that folks are saying about Apple, mainly because we're using this as an example. You got to consider this, like companies like Apple, they are extremely secretive. And if they could minimize the probability of anything being leaked out and then they meet in person, I would do the same if I'm running the company. You got to think about that. It makes sense to meet in person or some version of that. So that's something to consider. You know what I mean? Just doing things via Zoom calls or Teams or what have you. You have to consider this for the livelihood of the company sometimes. So you have to think about the greater good. Even though I know that if you're watching this as an employee, you think, oh, gosh, I got to go back to work. But, you know, if you really care about the company that you work for and you want your company to succeed, you got to think about the bigger picture sometimes. Let me see. Let me just go to the comments, see what we got going on here. Oh, I want to give a shout out to Livia that she joined us. She said she's a remote worker or remote life person. So I could definitely relate to that. Maria says that she has 3 Zoom calls a day. Wow. And now I'm curious to know, Maria, these calls that you're having, are these calls for, you know, like in the morning, midday, and afternoon, like, you know, like check-ins that you have to go do with your employees or your boss? Just curious to know what's the details of, not saying exactly what you talk about, but what's the reason why you got 3 calls every single time? Or it's just random. On average, you have 3 calls. She says, yes, I worked with them last year during the holidays. She's Maria's implying that she used to work with Amazon over the holidays. And yeah, and there's a lot of remote workers, especially, let's say if you have something that you're complaining about or you need help with on an order, your call is being picked up from all over the world. So that's remote work right there at its best. Let's go back to the podcast.
And this is the job. This is the job. Period.
And I have no problem with things evolving. I have no problem with things changing. I have no problem with employees putting a game plan together to be like, yo, look, Apple, this is what we're doing now. You either rock with it or you don't, and then we're gonna have to play our cards. But they ain't do all that. They're just like a petition. It's like that change.org. Is that what we're doing now? You know what I'm saying? I would have wanted them, wished them to get a better game plan together and be like, look, all right, we're about to mobilize, maybe even unionize. I don't know. You know, I don't know what the answer is, but I think they could have came up with something better than a petition. So my opinion.
I am all with the not having to go back to the office because I'm just not about that life anymore. That being said, as you said, how much money did they spend on that giant donut?
A couple billion.
Yeah, billions of dollars. It's like, hey, you know, somebody says like, hey, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna build a giant donut. Spend billions of dollars on it. You know, those folks are going to have to go back.
If you like what he just said, put in the comments
where they're coming from.
Hashtag
but I
giant
also
donut.
understand where Apple is coming from, and this ultimately is going to expand beyond just Apple. I think that, you know, workforces have to get used to the fact that they're going to be required to go back into the office, at least hybrid, because Apple's not being gangster with it. They're not saying you must come back in 5 days a week. They even modified their original plan. I believe the original plan was to have them come in set days, and now you're going to be able to come in like, you know, 2 days with a swing day.
They should have been back.
Yeah, see, the thing is that with that, the suggestion, I think it was either Monday or Tuesday and Wednesday. A lot of folks, I think the Monday is off the table. But and then the argument is, okay, now, if I was you, I'm not saying if I was you, but most employees, that I've come across in my lifetime will say, gosh, I want the third day to be a Friday, off day, meaning that they would rather come in Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So tell me if you guys think that's a good schedule. Let me know in the comments with a hashtag. Now, I'm in sales. I actually like to work on Fridays because it actually sets me up for success for the following week. But if you're remote work and you will prefer to work Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, let me know. If you're watching on the replay, put hashtag CCReplay with a thumbs up. And if you're watching me live, let me know with a thumbs up right there that you endorse that direction.
The news that I was reading, they should have been back when it was starting to get warm around springtime, even before Memorial Day. And Apple was pushing it back. They, fielded feedback from the employees, and employees was up in arms then. And Apple's like, all right, well, we'll push it back a little bit further, yada, yada, yada. But that I'm saying these Apple employees should have been like, all right, eventually they're going to call us back in there for real. What is our plan? And it seems like this petition thing is almost like a response to Apple saying, we want y'all back in the office, versus the Apple employees getting together and be like, look, going forward, this is what we want. This is what we want to see. This is what we're willing to do to make it happen. This is what's going to happen if y'all don't come to the table, So I just wish they would have had a better plan.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, people are going to just have to understand is that just because you don't go into the office does not alleviate your company from paying for the building. They are going to reap those benefits. Now, I think there's a lot of companies that they were able to get out of leases. They were able to get out of this. Like, oh, it's actually less expensive for us to have you work remotely than to have you in the office. And those companies are going to be good with you being remote 100% of the time. But if your organization owns real estate and, they have to pay for that real estate that they own, they're going to get you back in there. The other thing, too, and I do believe this because, I was a manager at a fairly high level for a long time. I do believe.
Now, I'm curious to know, how many of you guys are on this live and also the replay? How many of you guys actually are in management? Let me know in the comments, in management or manager, or just put the letter M. Just curious to know how many of you guys are in management. And then how many of you folks are watching the live or the replay are in middle management. You could just put MM. And then lastly, folks that are standard subordinates, employees. So you could just put the letter E if you are a standard employee, that you are part of a team. So let me know about that, because I'm just curious to know the scope of the folks that are watching this live. And then now, given that said, if you're a manager, how do you feel about actually going back to work? Because you have to lead by example. And then now the other thing about either middle management and then lastly, employees, how does that affect your lifestyle? You have been, for the most part, don't have to, if you can manage it well, not having a need to have daycare service, if you could manage that. And now you have to, that's going to go into your budget, that you have to make those changes. So you have to incorporate that in your travel back into, you have to incorporate enough time to drop off your children, if that's, if they're that young, or on top of that, the expense. The other thing to consider before I go back to the podcast is they're suggesting that, look at this, that if you choose to actually stay at home, there's a good chance that there's companies out there that are going to be cutting your pay, depending where you live. And I'll give you an example. What the gist of the story is that, let's say, for instance, if you work and go to the office in San Francisco, your pay should be more if you worked in let's say somewhere in Kansas, just because the cost of living is different. So given that said, if you're no longer coming to the office, which in this case you can't if you live in Kansas, unless you can relocate, then the cost of living is less, so they're gonna pay you less. So I've actually talked to folks that are making that change and say, you know what, I'm gonna take a different job, earn less, but they're gonna allow me to work from home. So I'm definitely interested to know about that, how that impacts the folks that are watching the live stream and also in the comments. Let me know about that. All right, and before we go back to the actual wrap up the segment from the podcast, let's see what else we have in the comments here. Yeah, so Maria says that living in San Francisco is expensive. Carolyn says she's an employee. Maria says she's an independent contractor, which essentially you are a combination of two things, either a manager or an employee. So because you do have to report to someone, essentially. And Maria says that they moved to different locations. Yeah. Let me go back to Livia. Livia says that Monday to reset your work week, and Friday is basically a half a day already. I guess you're right, because you're mentally thinking about going back to work. Yeah, like for me, my Monday is Sunday, because already midday Sunday, I might be thinking about, okay, what am I going to do Monday? This is why I say Friday is crucial for me, because I can prepare for Monday, and when Sunday comes, I can enjoy that entire day. So she says, half days already. I would agree that Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays is the way to go. So thank you, Olivia, for sharing your insight on that. So let's wrap up this show, and let me finish up the discussion from the podcast from the folks at the Tech Jawn.
That there is something to be learned by being in the
office,
proximity to people. It teaches you how to interact with folks. It also teaches you how to manage. So I'm thinking of this purely from the people who are looking to, maybe move into management. There's just a level of people skills that you have to, pick up on if you're trying to be a good manager. And it's so much easier to do that if you actually are in close proximity with people, and you can actually see and get the side conversations, and you meet somebody.
Now I got to ask you, if you're a manager, give me a thumbs up if you're looking forward to going back to work. Let me know about that in the comments. And if you're watching me on the replay, again, the hashtag is CCReplay, and give me a thumbs up. If you are a regular employee, what I mean by that is that you're not a manager, you're not in management. Let me know in the hashtag, either if you're watching me live, hashtag CCLive with a thumbs up if you're looking forward to going back to work and interacting with your colleagues. Or if you're watching me in the replay, hashtag CCReplay with a thumbs up if you're looking forward to going back to work.
The water cooler, all those kind of things. Back in the day, we actually used to talk about TV shows at the water cooler. I mean, that was a thing.
I remember those days.
I don't know what the digital version of that is now, but there are still things that there's just conversations that happen when you are next to someone that just won't happen when you are on Slack or when you're on Microsoft Teams. So,
well, I see already. Maria says, nope, she doesn't want to go back if she needed to. She don't really want to go back to the office. She says she loves her freedom. Caroline says that over the past 2 years, we have all had to make adjustments from our expenses. I believe that we all have to determine what is best for each and one of us. I agree 110%. My dude, Robert, says, look at what my dude says right here. Employee, that's what he is. He's a retired part-time senior person in my organization. Yeah, look, gosh, if you're retired, you're senior in everything, right? You're running the show. Robert, thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate that. And by all means, if I'm curious to know if anyone's watching that's retired, would you want to go back to the office? I know some of my family, even some of my friends that are retired, are even considering to take a part-time job, the AKA the Walmart greeter. So let me know if that's something you guys would consider.
I think folks have to get used to it. And this is a story we didn't even put in here, but there's this big thing now. I think it's called quitting silently or something like that.
Yeah, you guys have heard silent quitting. Yeah,
silent quitting. So I don't, I don't necessarily subscribe to doing that, to basically doing as little as you can and not getting fired.
I have. I have done that before.
Well, that's an interesting thought right there. Silent quitting, essentially quitting silently. And it's interesting to think about that because there's a lot of, I've heard enough dialogue that people are doing that some way, somehow, because what they're doing is that they are, and I don't know anyone particular, but I've read enough articles to say that people are taking a second job remotely. See how that works. And maybe even keep both. Or at the end of the day, probably quit the other one after they determine that this position works. So I'm curious, would you guys consider taking 2 remote work or 2 remote jobs? So let me know if you would take 2 remote jobs. Put that in hashtag, put a number 2 with a thumbs up if you would take more than 1 job in the comments. Let me know about that. I'm just curious to know, or better yet, would you even have the time? I'll give you an example. I've heard, gosh, I remember reading a story. If I can find it, I'll share it in the comments. That someone would actually automated a lot of his task because he used to work like late at night, and a lot of the stuff he was doing was remote work. And he automated a lot of his tasks, and he was doing that for, gosh, I think for years until they caught on. So he never really worked. He had everything automated. That's amazing. Let's see. Let's wrap this up, guys.
So here's my standpoint.
It didn't have a name at the time when I was doing it, but I have quit silently at a job before.
And my whole thing, and going back to the previous story, it's like things change, companies adapt, you evolve. So even that whole notion that, you got to be around people in order to manage people, I don't even know that's the case anymore with Slack, with all these other ways people have been doing remote for not even before the pandemic. People have been 100% remote for the longest, and I think that is a skill that will evolve and will adapt. Fast forward to this silent quitting thing. It's like corporations are learning slowly but surely, and they're resisting, as you can see with this Apple story. They are learning that people no longer to subscribe to the 9 to 5 Monday through Friday company loyalty to the bigger extent, to where people growing up back in the day, your identity was wrapped up in who you worked for, your job title, your job position, your titles, your duties and responsibilities. These kids nowadays, they do not care about some title, some 401k,
pension,
none of that. They like, look,
true.
I'm just here to collect a check.
I'm just here so I don't get fired.
I'm just here so I don't get fired, so I can go and discover myself and do all these things, because I can't take the money with me. I can leave generational wealth. I can set myself up to where when I retire, I'm not a burden on my family. But once I check those boxes, I'm not trying to give this company all my time and all my effort, stressing out, losing sleep on the weekend.
Well, that's true. true. Cause like at the end of the day, when the layoffs come through,
They coming.
they come in and they cutting you, and it don't.
Oh, sorry about that. I just thank you very much for mentioning that. I muted the audio, so I apologize. Yeah, what it comes down to, you got to consider this. When it's a work-life balance, and I'm curious to know that, I put that in the comments there, work-life balance. How many of you folks feel that you have to live your life that way? You have to have that work-life balance. So how often when 8 o'clock comes around or whatever time you start your day, you're there, Johnny on the spot, and you're working, Give me a thumbs up in the comments. Yes. But then, then when time comes, when your shift ends, so to speak, you end that. You go back to your life, spend time with your family, hang out with friends, go run errands, whatever that might be. Mind you, I'm in sales, so ultimately what I put out determines how well I do. So, yeah, sometimes I work a little bit longer. I make an effort to minimize that because my family, they deserve to see me and spend time with them. But at the same time, I want to make sure that when I go to work, this is my point of view. When I go to work, when I'm there, I'm efficient. I'm managing my time well, and I don't resent being there. And this is comments that I've heard folks have shared with me. I don't feel that way, but I've heard enough folks that say, well, gosh, it's hard for me to manage my time well, so I have to work longer hours, or I have to work on the weekend and the Saturday. But then when Monday comes around, you've been working all weekend long. Gosh, I can understand why you resent being at work. Or when your boss sends you that email, you want to say, I've been working all weekend long. What you... You get my point. So I'm curious to know if you guys are big on work-life balance, put hashtag work-life balance, or give me a thumbs up in the comments. And thank you very much for letting me know about the audio. I just muted it because I was typing, and I'm sure you get the point.
Matter how diligent employee you were, it doesn't matter how on time you were every day. It doesn't matter
how
if you
hard
was
you
in the
worked on the
office or not
weekend.
in the office, if you answered those emails after 6 p.m. None of that is going to matter. And I think, and I think that was always my attitude, period, about a job. There was a line from Mo Money back in the day. Now I'm dating myself, with the Wayans brothers, one of their first, Marlon and Sean's one of their first movies. And Marlon, like, all he used to say throughout the whole movie was, a job ain't nothing but work. And I say that all the time. I be saying that, I be like, listen, a job ain't nothing but work. And it's true, because it's like, at the end of the day, you're performing a service to get this pay, but whenever that agreement doesn't work for that company, they can terminate that agreement on demand. You know what I mean? And so you really have to think, your mindset has to be like, for self. It has to be for self first, and company second or third, or not at all. Cause shoot, it is what it is.
So I don't have a problem with, with this new thing. It seems like I've just been hearing about it since, like, I don't know, June, July.
They just came up with a term
they came up with a new term,
Okay.
but we all been doing that.
I'm not down with the companies that expect you're going to be putting in 20 hours of overtime.
They do, though.
You're going to be
They
coming
do.
in
They
early.
really
You're
do.
Going to be, you're going to be.
Now, let me know in the comments there, does your company, I doubt that they put it in writing, but do you feel that your company expects you to put in 20 hours of overtime? Let me know in the comments. Thumbs up. Right in the comments, type in thumbs up if that's what's alluded or implied. And if it's a thumbs down, put a thumbs down in the comments. So let me know about that. And before we wrap up the show, then I'll address the comments. All right, folks?
Doing all this. If you are managing to that, you're not an effective manager, in my opinion. But on the other side of it is that
I want you to hear what he just said. He made a very good point for managers.
I would hope this new thing. It seems like I've just been hearing about it since, like, I don't know, June, July.
They just came up with a term, like,
they came up with a new term, but we all been doing that.
I'm not down with the companies that expect you're going to be putting in 20 hours of overtime.
They do, though.
You're going to be
They
coming
do.
in
They
early.
really
you're
do.
Going to be, you're going to be doing all this. If you are managing to that, you're not an effective manager, in my opinion. But on the other side of it is that I would hope that folks, that they actually enjoy what they do for a living. Everybody.
Well, and that's the other part of the problem. You got people just doing stuff to earn money, but not doing something they actually like,
Right.
and definitely don't love and definitely aren't passionate about.
So then that's gonna wrap up. I'm gonna finish what they're saying, and I'm curious to know what you guys how you feel. Are you doing what you like? Are you working your passion? Or are you just working a 9 to 5? If you're just working a 9 to 5, put 9-5. If you're working your passion, put a P in the comments. I'm just curious to know. And mind you might be doing your passion part-time, and then eventually it'll turn into your full-time. So I'd love to know about that.
So now you really don't give a F because you're like, I don't even like this no way. So I'm going to sit here and do the bare minimum.
Right. So like I said, what I'm hoping is that you can have a situation where if you find employment that you actually enjoy, you like doing. Therefore, when you're in it, you're in it. You're going to give your time to whoever is paying you for that time. But it's like you clock in when you go, and you're done when you're done. You're not taking it home with you. You have that great work-life balance. If, some folks are saying, I'm basically just trying not to get fired. I'm trying to do as little as I possibly can to not get fired. I probably can go find somebody who is more effective at doing what doing what you do than you. Maybe that role is not for you. That's just my opinion. Like I said,
Yeah, that really brings it home. A lot of folks feel that way too. If you're doing that silent quitting, you're just buying your time. So, and that's not the best position to be in, because every time you go into work, you're resented. I would if I was in your shoes. And then, your work is gonna suffer. So then eventually you're actually gonna be you're firing yourself, because then you're gonna be let go because your performance taking a hit, and then you can't use it. I mean, it's a terrible situation altogether. All right, let's take a look here. We're going to be wrapping things up, so let me see what I got here in the comments. Let me actually find my mouse. There we go. Hey, where you go? You were there a moment ago. Okay, there we go. All righty, I found you now. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so let's see here. So folks are saying that work-life balance. I'm going back to where you guys can stop hearing when you stop hearing the audio. So thank you very much for letting me know that. And these are comments right from LinkedIn. So if you're watching this is where I'm reading the comments from. CL says, nah, in the evening, but I have to stop right on time. Yeah, I mean, I can stand that. Sometimes I'll do proposals for clients while I'm sitting outside watching podcasts. Like actually, there's a podcast that I listen to and watch at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday called All About Android on the Twit network, which I love. So if you like technology and I highly recommend it. Carolyn says, yeah, me too. I'm with you, Marcello. Thank you. I appreciate that. Maria says, me either. You show up or you don't. That's the key thing. You have to put your best foot forward. Carolyn says, yeah, when I'm working, I'm working. And when I'm home. There you go. Bingo. CL says it should be a corporate policy. And I'm curious what you mean by that. Are you saying that it should be a corporate policy, like, 9 to 5, and when you're done, or that you that you could work 20 hours? And if that's the case, if that's going to be a corporate policy that you could work 20 hours, I wonder how you could be reimbursed. Because you're not doing it for your health, unless, like in my case, it's sales, which ultimately I see the benefit down the road. Maria says, overworked is not healthy. Yep. CL says is implied. Yep. I get it right now. I see what you're talking about. Yeah, Carolyn was talking about, nope. You don't be working those OT hours. Miss Clark says thumbs down on that one as well. Maria says she's working her passion. So congratulations. I'm glad to hear that. That's a key thing. And I tested that. I'm working my passion. Yeah, I work for organization, but I love working with individuals and companies, helping them to install the solution that they need to be successful. So I love what I do as well. Maria says, been there, own your own life and been miserable. Yeah. CL says, yep. CL says yes, that's correct. Wish it was a corporate policy. I'm with you as well. And you said 9 to 5. Thank you. The participation has been outstanding. And Robert, no me olvide de ti. I didn't forget about you, Robert. Robert says, I work long hours. I don't punch a clock. Get paid by the volume of work I do. Unusual circumstance. Mind you, I've been in those scenarios in the past. It's almost like I think about, not saying that this is what you do, Robert, but I think about sometimes when you say that, I think about like folks that get paid to stuff envelopes. Yeah, there's people out there that get paid to stuff envelopes manually. So when I think about that, it's like, okay, I got so many envelopes, so I get paid X amount of dollars, you know? Or like I think about folks that put out flyers. Remember those things? Flyers. Now they turn into emails. So yeah. All right. So I wanted to thank you guys. If let me know if I'm struggling with an idea, like what I'm going to be doing going forward with these lives. Obviously, my passion is sustainability, recycling, and waste services. However, given who I work for, I have to limit what I talk about, and because they haven't approved it. But I'm curious to know if this topic or topics like this interest you, because this kind of stuff that I talked about today is how I think. I'm a random thinker. I usually it's just so many different things on a daily basis. So on a daily basis, you wouldn't know if I'm going to be talking about dog tears turning into happiness. That's what I talked about yesterday. And then today about remote work. So I'm curious to know if that's something that if you like randomness, let me know. Put it in the comments there, randomness. Obviously, if you're live, you could just put random. But if you're watching me in the replay, put in hashtag CCReplay random. So thank you. I appreciate that. I saw a couple of thumbs up on the side. So thank you very much for that. I see Maria says laugh out loud. Thank you. Again, hey, my name is Marcello Arcele. I'm a waste stream analyst. I just forgot there. I forgot what I did. I'm a waste stream analyst right here in Metro Atlanta, aka technology person that loves everything tech. Rebecca says that I love your spontaneity and talks about insights. I appreciate that. Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate that. And so basically, you're giving thumbs up for the randomness. And Miss Clark says she loves the randomness, and Carolyn as well. So thank you. Because that's how I think. I think randomly. I don't really have. Sometimes it's kind of hard just to be put on a specific topic, and then also time. That's why I don't know. And let me know as well if you're okay with the time that I've been choosing. Random times. So let me know if you like random times. Yeah, I see the thumbs up. If you like the random times, put RT in the comments. And if you're watching a replay, put hashtag replay, a hashtag CCReplay and random RT. So I appreciate that. Again, if you need recycling waste services, please contact me directly. My name is Marcello Arcele, and my best number to reach me is 678-683-9136. I thank you very much for watching me here live. Sorry it lasts a little bit longer than it normally does, but thank you for supporting me. Take care.